Hi everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to Screaming on the Inside, a UKAT podcast. I'm Lucia, your host for today and a member of the alumni team here at UKAT. Our guest today is Sanctuary Lodge alumnus David Jones, who I will be speaking to about his journey of addiction before, during and after treatment at Sanctuary. Thanks for listening. Hi, David. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast. We're just going to share your story a little bit and tell the viewers your experiences and a bit of your journey. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the viewers, that'd be great.
Yes, of course. My name is David Jones and I'm a recovering alcoholic. And today, very grateful where I am today and very happy to share my experience, strength and hope.
Thank you for joining us, David. So how did you come to be in Sanctuary Lodge, David? Do you want to tell us a bit about your journey before Sanctuary Lodge?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I won't go too much into the childhood and I'll save your listeners the pain from having it sort of an hour or too long. But I grew up in a very happy home. My parents did divorce, but in the kind of 80s, 90s, that was quite common. I felt like lots of friends who might have a single parent or so forth. There was drinking in the house in the sense that mum drank and dad drank, but it never seemed that their behaviour was ever alarming to me as a child. It seemed very much that that's what was happening. And actually, everyone was doing that. There was always sort of alcohol or very much party atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of time that I remember going with my older brother just to the local pub and you would go and drink, even at sort of 15, 16. And I think obviously that's changed a lot now. And then some would say, like, you've had enough, go home. Around that time, I didn't really have an obsession or a real desire to smoke or drink. And, I've obviously removed one of those from my life. I still do smoke, and that's a choice of mine at the moment. That's something that I might change. But I'll get to that because I didn't want to stop everything. The way that my brain is wired as an addictive personality, but as an alcoholic, I've got to be really careful what I let go and how quickly. And I've worked very hard at that. It all changed for me really when I went to uni. I went to an art school in Glasgow and back in around 2004. Because I was 19, I was just immersed in people who I believed I related in. It was all quite wacky being an art school. Everyone was young and away from their parents, and therefore everyone just went wild. And what I hadn't realised is that I was probably doing it a lot more even then. It was like I just love this sensation, and I've heard this before in the rooms of like I suddenly felt alive. I would have this kind of liquid inside me that then just made me confident. I could dance. And I thought, this is what you do. I'm young, you've got to party. But I overdid it because suddenly, even then, I was starting to see a counsellor because I felt I was homesick. I felt, was I good enough? All these kind of anxieties started to brew already. And I nearly got thrown out the first year, but luckily I had to do some work and I got back in. So, to be thrown out of an art school, I think is quite unusual. So it sort of gives you an idea of how much work I was doing, how productive I was. And it was a real shame that, because I'd worked really, really hard to get into this art school, and it was quite prestigious to do so. So I got through that, and then I worked for a music company doing lighting. And again, I thought, wow, this is great, because this world, there is a lot of drink and drugs.
Yeah. It's that kind of entertainment industry, and there's a lot of drugs and alcohol involved in that kind of industry. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're very clever and manipulative, I felt, because I still was only about 23. And I thought, well, these people are cool and they seem friendly. And of course they are, because they're kind of putting you into positions I felt now I look back as being sort of enablers, or maybe they're addicts, alcoholics themselves.
Yeah.
And therefore, you would work. And it was really normal to go to the pub or clubbing every sort of night, in a sense.
Yeah.
And I had a revelation. I was something like, there was something about that world that it felt uncomfortable. It wasn't because I was aware that it was the drinking for me. That was my substance of choice. Drugs I had dabbled with, but my brain for some reason didn't latch onto them. It kind of, I'd wake up and be like, not interested.
Not for you. Yeah.
Not for me, which is really strange. But with smoking, I was always smoking, and then the drinking just seemed to have something in my brain that went, I like this. And so, as I say, I felt uncomfortable in that world. And as you said, there's a lot in it, and it seems all, on the outside, it's all sort of fun, family oriented, glitz and glam, and it's all packaged and lovely. But behind the scenes, it's a very different story.
Yeah.
So I decided to change career and go into teaching. So I started as a TA, and through that period I worked really hard to do a PGCE, which is really stressful. My heart goes out to anyone who does that. Drink sort of had a back seat for a bit, and I was really productive, and therefore I had a few years where I thought, no, you know, this isn't really a problem. But as soon as I'd qualified, there was suddenly another drink culture. Yeah. So it was going to the pub on a Friday night, talk about work, de-stress.
Yeah.
And very quickly, what started to happen for me was that I waited for that night and I'd overdo it. Instead of just having one or two, I'd probably have too many. And then I would be going home and I would find people who would, I'd be like, well, that, you know, even that's a very responsible job, people are also doing it around me who are teachers. So is that bad? I think we're meant to do it.
Yeah, and it's a very high stress environment, isn't it? A teacher as well. So, you know, maybe in some sense it's kind of normalized because it's a bit like our, you know, de-stress after work. Let's go to the pub, have a drink, relax after a hard day. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that de-stress thing, I just thought, oh, maybe this is what you do. You work really hard, you're responsible. And so I didn't think anything of that. What I didn't know is that everyone sort of around my age weren't actually going home, from what I believe, and drinking more. And I would. And then so gradually it was like the hangovers were happening on a Saturday morning. I was really conscious of, because it's a responsible job, I won't drink in the week. I'll wait till Friday night. But the problem with that is, of course, I'd make up for all those days.
Yeah, over the weekend.
And it would then come to Sunday. I'd have maybe one or two and think that's all right because I've got Monday to start. I became a head of a department and there was a lot of responsibility. And bizarrely, the way my head worked, as soon as I got that, I remember feeling really empty. I thought, well, I've achieved that goal now. What do I do? Like, do I even want to do this? It was sort of terrifying because there's a lot of responsibility. And so the drinking started where it was starting to creep into Thursday night. And I'd say to myself, well, I'll have half a bottle. And I was able to do that. And again, my head, I was going, this is fine. You know, I don't even have, if I can do half a bottle, it's not. I'm
justifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Justifying. I'm fine. So I obviously haven't even got a drinking problem here. At this time, I was kind of aware that I was starting to use things for the drinking. So, for instance, it would start to become that, yes, I would go and see friends and drink and do it the right kind of thing. Again, going home even after a really nice social night. Yeah. And I again think that maybe it was probably happening for the other people, that they'd have gone to bed. Well, maybe I was staying up much later and suddenly it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Again, very quickly, I would go to pubs. When I say quickly, I thought at first it was fine. I'd go into the pub, meet people. And once I got that feeling, I would be more confident. What I was unaware was that the people I was meeting were not friends. You know, I would be buying them drinks because I'd suddenly be really over the top and over friendly, probably incredibly annoying. And I would say that thing in my head, well, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to leave. And the clock just seemed to change. And suddenly it was, you know, I was the last one in this venue.
Yeah.
Always then trying to find a 24-hour shop. And because I had an experience where it was a Saturday, I went as soon as the pub was open on sort of 12 o'clock, started drinking cider and lots of it.
Yeah.
And went to a few pubs. And what had happened is I knew in my head something had happened, but because I didn't go back there for a while and I left it for 2 months. What had occurred was that I'd been very rude to the barman in the sort of second or third pub because they wouldn't serve me quite rightly. And the terror, because I couldn't remember.
You didn't know what you did, what happened, who saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the first time where I thought, well, that I didn't know at the time, but I was obviously in blackout. And I just thought, well, I black out sometimes because I've drank a lot in the evening and I've just gone to bed on the sofa or in my bed and I don't really know. That didn't seem to worry me. This was the first time that it worried me. And the barman was actually very good to sit down with me and just say, look, I appreciate you've actually said, sorry, you're obviously not aware. And then offered me a pint, which I actually said no. Odd. I was so ashamed. So to kind of move on a little bit, drinking in a social way was starting to really slip.
Yeah, and get out of control.
Really get out of control, because I thought, actually, I don't want to do that again and
Yeah.
upset someone without knowing. I don't really want to go to my friends, because what was starting to happen is that before I was going to go and meet them in town, I'd have a few drinks and I would turn up and they'd say, have you had a drink? And I'd say, no, no. But then, of course, they knew. They can smell
Yeah.
it. They can see it in
Yeah.
my eyes. They can, it's very hard. I'm slurring. The poison doesn't lie, does it? So
No.
I started to isolate, and I'd sit in my flat in the living room, and I would think I'm safe here because I can turn my phone off and drink as much as I want, and I can think about tomorrow. Do this tomorrow, I'll, because I'm an artist, I paint and I do all different bits of art. I'll do that tomorrow. And the problem was that I wasn't doing any of it.
Yeah, it's always, I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. And as well, as you say, like, you were isolating and, drinking by yourself. So you weren't worried about if someone saw you, or you didn't have to explain yourself or answer to anyone. You were free to kind of get in that dark place, without anyone there to give you that bit of light, that bit of a mirror to hold up.
Absolutely, because I didn't realize how unwell I was and that I had this illness at this stage. I just thought, okay, my drinking's getting a bit out of hand here, but I was spiritually not well, and I was also emotionally really in a dangerous place, and therefore I would use everything in that drinking period to start saying, well, I haven't got this in my life, that's happened at work, all of these excuses, poor little me, self-pitying. So I would drink more, and then tomorrow would come and I'd feel guilty, because even though I was in this isolating, the mobile phone, even if I turned it off, put it upstairs, put it in a drawer, what would start to happen is it would turn on, and I wouldn't know I'd done that. So I would have sent messages, I would have phoned my dad, and of course my mum. And when in that state of active drinking now and active addiction, it's kind of what I didn't know is that I was becoming someone completely different. And to parents and friends and people who really love you, that is possibly the worst thing, to start to see someone deteriorating quite quickly. And there is nothing they can say.
Nothing they can do, to stop you. That's the scary thing, being a loved one, as well as seeing someone in that place. And, it just breaks your heart to see them do that to themselves and just be powerless. You can say anything to the person, but, there's nothing you can do. So on that note, David, what was it that brought you to that stage of seeking help? Did you have like an aha moment, any divine intervention, or how did you get to being in that place of darkness to want to seek help?
Well, I had an event that, again, obviously was a lot of drinking, which I ended up my chest hurting a lot. And I was admitted to A&E. I'd had previous times actually that I was able to cleverly eradicate through drinking, where I'd fallen over and I had ended up in A&E, and I'd have to then cover it up and say, all these bizarre lies. But this one was so scary that it was the first time that I admitted to this amazing nurse there. He sort of said, there's something else. And I said, I think I've got a drink problem then. And he said, well, if you need help, have you thought about AA? And I didn't know any of it. It was too confusing. But the word rehab came up by my sister-in-law, and she phoned me. And at first I was like, well, this is like some sort of bizarre nightmare. What's going on? And before I know, I was there. And while I was there, I did everything by these incredible people at Sanctuary Lodge, the therapists, all of them, they are like angels. So I did everything, met some incredible people. And when I came out, I just thought, right, because what I was doing there, I was quite honestly comparing. And I said, well, I don't drink vodka at 3 o'clock in the morning. I haven't taken that drug. And so I came out still actually quite damaged. And I thought, if I've listened and I've done all of the work, I'll be fixed. I'm fixed now. And I'll never forget it. I was going around the roundabout probably about 2 months, and I thought, I've done this. That's really good that I've solved the problem of
I've got it. I'm healed. I'm cured.
And I can just get on, done that one, tick, brilliant. Kept them quiet as well. I've kept my family quiet, so everyone's going to be happy.
Put them off your back.
And I'm going, life's going to be brilliant. What I didn't realise is that word relapse, is that I was just the same. Yes, I did 28 days. Really, I was the same, because I started to then think, actually, a few things had happened. My partner and I had split up. I didn't drink for a while, and I thought, I didn't drink over Christmas, and I thought, I'm coming up 6 months. I thought, that's fine. So I'd had one night, just half a bottle of wine, and I wake up in the morning, I thought, see, look, brilliant. The relapse was in my head. There was, the little gremlin was actually going, right, well, this is great. Because then I thought, well, I can do that. So 2 weeks later, well, a week later, probably was a week.
You can control it now.
Yeah, but it was then suddenly 2 bottles of wine, and it just escalated incredibly quickly. Where once again, it got me on the floor with some paramedics looking over me. I had at work given him my notice, and I had 3 weeks left, and I wanted to do this to end well. But I was in such an awful state. I got to the point now where I'd woken up, and I will never forget this, and I wouldn't want anyone to go through it, where I was shaking, I was sweating. The only thing, and it was a dialectical thought in the way, that was, I do not want to drink anymore. I can't do this, but I really need a drink. I really
Yeah. You were physically dependent, were you, at that time then?
Really dependent. I started to take days off because I was really dishonest. Was worrying my family like you can't believe, and my friends. I had to go to the newsagent that was only sort of 2 minutes away, and every step was like hell. It just ended up just in an alleyway drinking these beers. And the thing again I think I said earlier, is that I was doing it on a Friday. This was 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. And so I had to do something. I was absolutely at my ends. I just thought, I can't live like that. Absolutely rock bottom. My journey, I didn't lose my driving license. I didn't lose and I didn't lose, well, I'd lost my partner, hadn't I? And I was very close, is that there was a thread. And if that went, it would have all gone. There was no question of that. But most importantly is that for the first time, there was a voice going, it might be easier if you just end it. You'll be less of a burden. And I really believed that. Because of this, somehow, a kind of higher power that I hadn't quite got at that time, something spoke to me, and I rang Sanctuary Lodge again, and the head therapist picked up, who probably should have not been there, but they were incredibly hard. So it was about 6, and said, I would like you to come in right now. And this saved my life, actually. I would like to come in right now, otherwise, I'd like to book it right now, otherwise I won't talk to you again, which sounds harsh, but it made me book it right then. And when I went the second time back to Sanctuary Lodge, I couldn't believe it. I thought, how has this happened again? But I decided I needed to listen to what was suggested, because when I was there the first time, they all said, get yourself to a meeting, get a sponsor, do the steps. And I went to, quite honestly, one meeting, and I then had multiple relapses, and got me back into treatment. This time I thought, right, it's not about getting all the incitements straight away. It's not like doing lip service. My head was going, I need to do this for me.
It's life and death now at this point.
It's life and death. And if I don't have my recovery, I haven't got anything. So instead of thinking I need to do this for my family, well, I need to do it for me, so that I actually doing it for my family. And so I did Sanctuary. I started to really talk in meetings, which really helped. I used to sit in the back of the room, be silent, because I was terrified, didn't know what was going on. As it's sometimes said, the word God was there, and I was like, oh, what does that actually, I mean, God was never really a part of my life. Do I now need to go to church all the time? It was suddenly people saying, well, it's not about that. Yes, the word's God, but when I was being sort of anti-God, didn't do very well, because I was drinking. But one thing, and I hope this will help maybe one or two of the listeners, is that 1990 kept on coming up. And I thought, for the first time, if someone said 1990, I would have gone, that's not for me, thanks. I don't have time, I'm too busy. But I was, I had a lot of time
a lot of time for drinking,
loads of time for that. That was
all the time for that,
But to keep well and manage the illness, I didn't have time. But my mind changed. So as soon as I came out of Sanctuary, I went to a meeting on the Sunday night, and I did my 1990. And for me, it was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, because it kept me really focused, and it changed my perception of what meetings were about. The word God for me now is comfort and a safety net. More than that, it's a saviour, in the sense that I don't have fear towards God, the way that I perceive it. And that's what's so beautiful. It's not this word that I had perceived it before within my drinking. It seems very negative, and it's a really positive thing. I can have it in the terms of how I want to see it.
Different ways of interpreting that for the person.
And just to say that what I do believe happened for me, when we went to a meeting outside of Sanctuary Lodge nearby in the church, there was a lady speaking who said her husband had died. She then went on a cruise by herself, and she was still sober, and she was 12 years sober. And I thought, I really want that.
Yeah.
Like, what an incredible woman, what a brilliant person. And I left the meeting and everyone was sort of going, oh, that was a bit boring, I don't know. And I thought, that was me before. I used to say that, but this time I was like, hang on, I've noticed the man who shakes my hand, who says, hello, how are you? And there's someone who's made some cake and there's tea and coffee and everyone's in quite a good mood.
Yeah, it's not just about, with addiction, when you're in the midst of it, it's very selfish. It's just about you. But now, you've got to the point where it's not just about you anymore. It's about you're present for other people and you're able to, appreciate other people as well and have the time for them as well to listen to their story and really, take that in.
I absolutely agree. And for me, hearing that, there was suddenly something that my higher power, my grandparents, who sadly passed away last year, it was very clear because they were such brilliant people in my life when they were here. They still are because I speak with them, every day. What I started to realize is that everyone who was suggesting me, people who had long sobriety, who, they said, keep with the winners. I was able to find them. And it wasn't very difficult. It's like just by listening. I did a lot of listening and I made myself share, even if it was quite short, to keep me really involved and focused. And I started hearing people going, yeah, well, I'm 30 years sober, I'm 20 years sober. And I thought, well, I'll talk to them. And they were so welcoming. And by the first week, I got my sponsor, who's an amazing person, now a year and 8 days sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Because I really, when I did a share the other day at a meeting, I just thought, holding that chip, I thought I would never got that. And if anyone is listening and thinking, how do I stay sober even for a day? Because even a day is a miracle, isn't it?
100%.
I was sitting there and it was emotional. I've been able to do it. And for me, the way I've done it is by, you've got to work at it. There's no lie that it's just really breezy and easy. I thought that's what would happen. Go to treatment for a month and it would all work. No, there is, I'm sure you've heard it as well, is that you stop whatever the substance is, but the head's still there. I'm still.
And that's still, as well, David, that's still the addict talking, isn't it? Thinking that you can just go in, get fixed and come out. It's looking for the easy option and a quick fix. That just, kind of shows that you still weren't in that place ready to receive what it was that you were going to receive whilst in treatment.
Obviously, I went there twice.
Yeah.
That wasn't the plan, but I had two different experiences, and I look at it with my part of my journey. So the first time I went in there, I was mortified. I was really ashamed. I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. I knew the word rehab in songs or films. The reality of it was really different, though, because I'm still in contact with people. I met some of the greatest people in my life, and as I say, the therapists and the whole team, I must admit, who worked in Sanctuary Lodge were incredible. They all do play a vital role. I'm really grateful because it was a safe place. It was a place for me to be able to just stop for a little bit and just think, have that time to be clear-headed, actually, because every day of not being around the substance helped me to actually realize that I could start to do things like laugh. Like, we would have the best laughs there doing the quiz or just silly conversations because you're all in it together.
Exactly.
And you help each other. And of course, there's a lot of serious, it is, I think as you've said, it's, we're dealing predominantly with a life and death illness here. It's a really serious, it's not a joke.
No.
So there is the hard working. It is tiring, but it does work. I mean, I'll say to anyone, I am evidence, or I tried experimenting with coming out of Sanctuary Lodge, out of treatment, doing nothing that's suggested, then going back, doing what's suggested. And, I live for the day. I don't ever say, right, I'm going to be sober for this long. I don't know. Well, I know that every day I have a stressful day because it's life, or I have a wonderful day, and I put my head on that pillow. It is just magic, better than any drink for me. And then when I wake up in the morning, no madness has happened. There's no chaos. And believe me, I wouldn't have said that before. I'd have been like, oh, that's just going to be boring. Like, how do I get through one day and then not have a drink to forget it all? And be a bit crazy. And that's, how I talk to people. It's like, but now I can just have a normal conversation without having to to try and be someone else. I can just be me.
Be you. And you found real confidence now, not behind a mask of alcohol, you're liberated.
So many things have changed. And I'm still, I've heard it before, I am still teachable, which I'm really grateful for. I don't go to about 3 or 4 meetings a week. Actually, at the end of the day, I look forward to them, and I sometimes need them. But I've had this kind of day, I can't wait to get there because I know I feel better when I leave.
Yeah.
And I've had one experience that was a little bit tricky, but it was fine because everyone around me said, is everything all right? It wasn't too much. I don't need to really go into it. But every single meeting, even that, I come out feeling like, actually, that wasn't me. What's happened for me is that the love and trust. I mean, I was very lucky. I always had the love and support. Going into treatment for me showed that commitment. And then the meetings. And I don't go to the meetings to say, hey, mum or dad or friends, look what I'm doing. I do it because it's a way of my life now. There's that ripple effect thing. I mean, it's incredible. The other day in my drinking, my dad said to me on the phone, I don't trust you. And I remember being really furious. How dare you? Today, I'm like, of course. Why would he have trusted me?
Yeah.
And out of the blue the other day, he said, I'm really proud of you. And I really trust you. I didn't have to fish for it. I didn't have to.
It just came naturally.
It just came naturally. And so the relationships start to, I couldn't imagine. They just really improve. And people do start to trust you. They start to tell you. I've noticed my friends starting to tell me things that actually they couldn't before because they didn't know what kind of state I'd be in. Was it fair to tell me things? Would I keep it? Now they can tell me lots of things. And the one thing that I think is so important, I wasn't on it. I was really dishonest in my drinking and these lies, because a lot of it started to come to hiding. I would pretend that I was totally sober, but have a bottle of wine in a cupboard if I was visiting my mum, my dad. And it was exhausting. It was like I couldn't remember where everything was. And today I don't worry about that. I live as best I can an honest life. And I can't tell you where it's like, someone might say something, you just say, well, no, that because it hasn't. I know here in my heart that it's true. And it's a great feeling. And it does come through all of this, if you work it, it works. I just think it's incredible. I'm not alone.
Isolating yourself and feeling so alone. And then now you've got so much community, the meetings, it's a great support. It's like a family, extended family, you're all there and you're all in it together, the same as it is in treatment, you're all in it together. And, that's what gets you through it as well, is just to know that there's that support there and people that understand, people that won't judge you, and people that want to see you succeed and do well in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, with my sponsor going through the steps, I was so confused by it, but it wasn't actually. It's not that complicated. Someone who's gone through it. I mean, I'm sponsoring someone now because it's, it was written that actually Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob came together and they started, sponsoring straight away and carrying the message. So it's not written anywhere that you've got to wait all this time. That's my only personal thing. It's like if someone needs to be sponsored, needs help.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I'm at a point to do that. One thing I think is important to might be helpful is to add that I thought without my substance, my life would be really boring. And I was speaking to someone who brought this up, who was early in recovery and was saying, I just don't know what to do now. Life's really difficult. And this person completely changed that attitude now.
Yeah.
It's taken a bit of time. We all have our different times, absolutely. But the reason I'm saying that is I was so worried about that. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how do I wake up? The day will be long.
Yeah, I can have so much time on my hands.
So much time.
I don't know how to fill my time. And
will I be able to actually laugh? That is such a myth.
Yeah.
Like, my life is so exciting in the same. I mean, not all the time. I mean, I'm not like, put on the washing and go, wow, that's incredible. But I will do much more than I ever have. I've started, my creativity's come back, and I don't put so much pressure. If I've done a painting or a drawing and it's not, going to be in the Tate Modern, fine. I mean, it probably never will, but I do it for the joy of it. Or I'll be cooking and I'll just have some music on and I realise how lovely it is. And you start, like, the colour starts to come. I know this might sound a bit cliche, dramatic, but colour starts to come where I start to notice things, because I was verging on, insanity.
Yeah.
It was just all very grey, if not a bit black,
Yeah. And now you're present and, like, just even, just hearing the birds sing, things like that make such a difference. Being able to just enjoy that moment here and now.
Yeah, I mean, I am eternally grateful. One thing I always do in my head, though, is I just say I'm not going to be overconfident and I'm not going to be complacent.
Yeah.
And I try very hard to sit in the middle. If I think I've had a really bad day, I call my sponsor or I go to a meeting, unless there is something I think is safe in my recovery, if that makes sense. So my niece is having a birthday, I probably will go to that. But if I know my head's feeling funny, I get myself to a meeting, because if I don't, I know what my head can do. And it's action as well. It's like, if I'm feeling a bit bored, well, then I'll do something, and it doesn't have to revolve around doing something that's going to change my consciousness and make me ill. And one thing that a really wise person said to me, which I thought was great, was that, you know, I am well as long as I don't take the first sip, the first drink. I'm really aware of just being grounded, being not too complacent or overconfident, is that I know my head can get, it's a sunny day or something really good's happened. Wow, I'm really excited. Let's celebrate. I have to go, whoa, just come back. And the same with being
that balance, that middle ground.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there anything that would you say to our listeners that is really the fundamental thing in your recovery?
The fundamental thing for me is it does work. I have faith, because I've listened, and I'm really grateful for that. I think it is, for me, the program is so important in my life to keep me sober. I do have a therapist that I see who deals with my thinking. I do take some medicine just for my mental health, for my anxiety a bit. And some people might say, oh no, I don't want to do that, or this or that. That's for me. Those are my fundamental, it's like a toolbox. And if they're working, I'm not going to change them, because I haven't felt more who I would like to becoming than I have for a long time, since I was probably 19. I look at it like a toolkit, and I look like it like armor, all these little bits, the meetings, the sponsor, the steps, the fellowship, where I'm really conscious about my thinking and being honest, talking about those other things there with the therapy. Now I feel actually much stronger, because it's up to me to just keep them going, because if I let them all go, then I'm very vulnerable.
What would you say to our listeners, David, that are at rock bottom, or, you know, considering going into treatment, or what would your advice be to someone, you know, seeking support?
In rock bottom, however awful it feels, it can pass. That is the lucky thing about this crazy world, is that time moves, and even though it won't feel like it, and life can be challenging, it can feel like you can't get over a hurdle, I really believe that you can. We don't get everything we want, that's not how it works, but things do seem to go their path somehow. I was terrified of treatment because I didn't understand it. It was a lifeline, made me really be aware of what was happening in my head, and that I had this illness, because I strongly believe to the day I die that it is not a choice. And the way to really keep this illness at bay really is to get help from experts, and to let go of that shame. And because there is no shame, if someone's going to be really nasty about someone who is an addict, then for me, they're not part of my life. Like, we're not saints. We don't know everything. To try to remember that actually going into treatment is going in there for you. It's scary, feels really surreal. But when I left, particularly that second time, it actually did make me stronger. It made me learn things. If I hadn't done it, I would probably not be doing this podcast. I probably wouldn't be doing it. I would say, if anyone can, I know it costs money, but does that matter if it's going to actually be a way to save your life? It does.
Yeah, amazing. And David, what would you say to those who have just come out of treatment? What would you say to the listeners that have just completed treatment and come back home? What would your advice be to them?
Well, it's a very obvious one. Get to a meeting. Because I am living evidence. When you don't do that, or for me, I can't say whatever happened. For me, when I didn't get to a meeting, I relapsed, and really, really badly. And when I did get to a meeting, it was a different story. You know, I was still teachable. And I think it's really important. It's you know, if I'm able to sit here and talk about this with hand on heart, honestly, a year ago, definitely 2 years ago, if anyone had said you're going to go to AA, I'd be like, what are you talking about? You know, now I'm like, yeah, thanks, I will. It's a really important thing to do service, and what I mean by that, if people don't know, is that, you know, making tea or coffee, why not? Because it's a really lovely thing to do. But you can make someone who's really lonely, that can make their day. That's actually just what they needed, someone to show a little bit of kindness and compassion.
The small things, isn't it, you know, make such a big difference to people.
Really does. And now I'll be chairing a meeting, a big book study soon. And that's the other thing. Ask the questions, like, particularly in treatment, in meetings. No one has all, you know, it's going to go, what are you talking about? Like, what's beautiful is that people talk about all sorts of things. It's the place to do that. And I've heard some mad stories, and and they're brilliant, because if some of the things that are said in the meeting, if they were said at work, or they'd probably be, people wouldn't really understand. They just wouldn't understand. It's not their fault, but that's what we have to do in life. This is the sanctuary, the place where you can say, today I nearly drank because someone looked at me funny.
Yeah, it should be a safe space for people. Yeah. And there's no, like you said, there's no right or wrong way in recovery. Everyone's journey is unique and individual to them as well.
Absolutely. And therefore the judgment thing has really, I don't judge at all. Like I was sort of talking at the beginning about comparing. Well, it's not a competition in the sense of sobriety. If someone is sober and what's in that meeting, one day or 24 hours, getting that chip is really important, because that's the start, and that's a miracle in itself. But I wish I had, I'd love to bottle that feeling of when this kind of, this is what I want. That old me left a bit of going, I don't care anymore, I'll just drink to death. It's like, that is really, really far away in the distance. It's like, now I'm like, actually, even the thought of it, I can go to supermarkets and I just don't really think of, there's the obsession is left.
Yeah.
And I was terrified that day I talked about it, where I ended up in the alleyway, that would never leave. I was like, it just felt like I was stuck. Pause, and it was really scary. And if anyone does go through it, my heart really goes to them, because it is terrifying. But look, I was unpaused, and I sit here today, where today's been a bit stressful, but I can get through it because I know what to do now.
You've got the tools, and you're doing it day by day, as you say, not getting too far ahead, just for today.
Just for today. And I'm also, I know I'm grounded. I don't know everything. I'm not some sort of, genius. I'm not going to be possibly a famous artist. And that's what I always thought, I'm going to be this. That doesn't matter. Actually, I'm sober today. So that matters.
Amazing. Well, thank you, David, so much for joining us today. And thank you to our listeners as well.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
You've been listening to Screaming on the Inside, a UKAT podcast. Thanks again for joining us today, and a huge thank you to David Jones for sharing his incredible journey with us. As always, you can find further support links and information on the UKAT website. Go to www.ukat.co.uk. Take care.